Welcome to the Small Giants Fishbowl. This topic is values of the sell. Your values are written on the walls and repeated at every meeting. Your frontline employees look every customer in the eye and deliver great service. But who's keeping an eye on the sales team? Raul Candeloro, editor of Vende Mas, Brazil's leading sales management magazine, discusses how you can make sure that your sales team is keeping the company values at the core of the deals that they're making. Okay, here we go.
I usually wanted to know the results of all the direct mail pieces that I did. So I usually would go to see what was happening with salespeople, and then I noticed that we would create a flow of new opportunities for salespeople, but they weren't using them correctly. So I went into sales training. Really didn't know exactly what I was doing at the beginning. But if I didn't, train salespeople to deal with the opportunities that the direct mail was creating, I didn't feel like I was doing my job. From that, so I started to be really successful as a sales trainer. I was making more money with that, and it started to get popular. Because of that, started a newsletter. So after sales training, people would still receive material from me. The sales newsletter grew into a magazine, and then I started hiring people. Then suddenly I had a company, and it wasn't just me anymore. We went to 105 employees. At that moment, I found Small Giants community, started traveling in the U.S., started talking to you, to Paul, to Bo, and all that. That kind of changed my life. And then I decided to move to the U.S., so we downsized. Today I have only 18 employees. We outsourced everything else. It took us 2 years to get to the point where we are now. And right now we have 3 business units. We have the magazine, we have a sales training company, and we have a consulting arm that is doing a lot of great work. We have 10 consultants right now. I wrote several sales books. I speak publicly in Brazil. I do usually 50 to 60 paid speaking engagements a year. I used to do more, but now that I have 2 kids and my wife doesn't want me to travel that much, I have to step down. And I have 2 online courses that are very successful too. One is for salespeople, and one is about sales management. So if you have a team of salespeople, I teach you how to improve your performance there as a sales manager. As you mentioned, I used to do triathlons. Ironman's not doing those anymore. I'm doing Spartan races and like mud races. Those kind of super fun. And yes, I'm a big Iron Maiden fan, and I will follow them when they come to North Carolina or South Carolina. I'm one of those groupies, that follow them in a car, and then I spend 3 days just watching all of their concerts. That's basically my background and quickly what I've been doing. And right now, Glenn asked me for each one of you to quickly introduce yourselves, and then we will go over this one-page template that I created for helping sales managers. Okay, so who wants to start?
I'll start. Keith Squires, President and CEO of Pathmaker Group. We do IT security, consulting, and systems integration. We put software products in place, primarily IBM and Oracle products, and integrate those with larger enterprises.
Okay.
Perfect, Keith, and everyone else, try to match Keith's time frame. Or how long you've been in bio.
Official timekeeper.
That was fantastic, Keith. Thank you. Marissa, go for it.
All right. My name's Marissa Smith. I'm the owner of the Whole Brain Group, and we are an inbound marketing agency in Ann Arbor, Michigan. We focus on helping growing companies generate leads and sales online, and we do a lot with aligning the sales process and marketing process with values and vision and all that good stuff.
Great. I'm Brad Herman.
How was that, Glenn?
Perfect.
We are at Call 'em All in Dallas, Texas, Frisco to be specific. We do automated calling and texting. So we take a list of phone numbers, record a message, and blast it out to all those people. Great example is for snow day cancellations for schools. And proud to be Small Giants, and happy to be here.
I'm Michael Rose with Mojo Media Labs. We're an inbound marketing agency. We help clients retain, grow, and acquire customers by creating website demand. We love what we do, and we do our best to make it a fun experience. At Mojo, we live by our core values here. We make decisions on core values, and wrote a book, which I will be talking to you all about hopefully on the next fishbowl, and look forward to sharing that with you in the future about employee engagement.
And we have an interview with you in our website for anyone that wants to. Glenn, you can use that for the next fishbowl.
Absolutely. I'll send that out as a link in the follow-up for this one.
Yep.
Real quick, before Raul starts talking about the worksheet and the values of the sale, if there's any technical issues, I'll use the chat to communicate directly with you, or if you have any specific questions that you'd like to direct to Raul, please use that function. That way, so we can continue chatting, continue talking, and we can still address things behind the scenes. So other than that, Raul, take it away.
Okay, so the first thing I'd like to ask is if everyone has the sales strategic map that I asked Glenn to send. It's a PDF file. We'll be covering that in this call, so it would be really useful if you have it in front of you. It makes it a lot easier. Yeah, okay. Mike has it printed. Do you have it?
Got it.
Okay, everybody has it? Okay, well, I'd like to start thanking Marissa for this, because Marissa and Rob Dubé, they referred me to a book called Traction, which I have right here. It's by Gino Wickman, and Rob Dubé is actually in the book. And I was reading the book, and I also read the Rockefeller Habits from Vern Harnish. And they both use a one-page sheet that's like a worksheet. And I was doing different things with my consulting customers, clients, and I thought, well, I never thought of putting this all in the same sheet. So what I created is something that is related to what Wickman and Vern are doing, but this is specific for the sales force. And what I did is I created 9 areas which I think that have to be really clear for a salesperson to be really effective and have high performance. So I'll just cover quickly all of them because of the time we have here, and then I will open up for questions and we can discuss what we think, how we use it, and that kind of thing. First thing I have to define here are the values. And why do I start with values for salespeople? I wrote an article about this, and Glenn published it in the website, because I found several times that when you hire salespeople, they have different values from the company, and that is I don't think that is aligned with the real mission of a sales giant. If what really differentiates a small giant is the values that it has, you cannot have different values for a sales force. The thing is that usually what the salespeople are commission-based, and they will have different goals, and so they're hired differently, they're trained differently. It's like it's a different company. It's not just a different department inside the company, it's a different company. And one of the questions that I usually get here is that, can my sales team have different values from the rest of the company? And we can discuss that later on, but my answer is always no. What you have to do is translate those values for the sales force. So for example, let's say that teamwork is one of our values. So what does teamwork mean for a salesperson? Let's say that ethics means is one of our values. What does that mean for a salesperson? Because sometimes you will see that people will have a phrase or a small paragraph that defines that value. For example, ethics. And we would define ethics as always doing the right thing. Well, what does that mean for a salesperson? What does always doing the right thing mean? And so you have just to translate those values for the salespeople, but they have to be very clear, because everything you're going to do afterwards is going to be based on those values. So you start defining them and you reinforce them constantly, because after this is all done, you will have a feedback tool for your sales team, right? So you start defining your values. Second thing is, put on paper and ask all your sales team to define goals and objectives. But here, I want to be very specific, because usually what I see is that they only put revenue targets, like financial objectives, and I think you have to go a little deeper. So things that I ask for example, are what I would call market performance, would be number of products or services or contracts, sold. So how do you measure success, not just financially, but what do you have to sell in order to achieve your financial objectives? Another thing that I'd like to see with sales teams are customer satisfaction. Is that something important? If you're a small giant, your answer is probably yes. But salespeople usually are not commissioned on that. So there's a problem here, because you're asking them to do something which they are paid for, but they don't really care about the success of that project. Once they sell and they close the deal, sometimes salespeople will say, I did my work, I'm done. I'm finished. And they say, no, you have to really be with us, with the rest of the team, the whole time. So that's something that I like to measure. Profit margins, if you're open numbers, I want salespeople to know about profit margins. They have to be clear if they're making money or not. Because especially when they have the ability to discount, this is something that they can do. They can, you give a salesperson a margin of, like they can discount, and they have a price, and where they can work with that price within a range. Usually what they do is they start using discounts as a sales tool, and then that hurts your profit margins. So you want to be very clear about what you want as profit margins. And I started doing this. This is very interesting, because when you have larger sales teams, sometimes you will have an overall revenue goal target, but when you ask each individual salesperson to put their sales targets on, or revenue targets on paper, and then you sum them all up, they do not make your overall goal. So you want, let's say you want to have, $1 million of sales revenue this year, and you have 10 different salespeople, and all of them are supposed to have $100,000 as their target. You ask each one of them, one will put 80, the other one will put 90, the other will put 110, 120. When you sum them all up, it ends up being $950,000, not $1 million. See what happens? That happens a lot of times. So I want the goals. I want them to talk about revenue. I want them to talk about market performance. I want number of active customers, for example. I want customer satisfaction, and I want profit margins. And I want this overall for the whole company. And then usually what we do is we divide this goal square in two, and we will put on the bottom the individual's targets, and on the top the overall targets for the team. So each one of them knows what the overall objective is, and on the bottom what my individual goal would be. Third thing that I ask people to do is define positioning. So positioning basically could be two big lines. Are we low-cost providers, or are we value-added providers? And this is very important, because usually what happens is that as you try to be a value-added provider and talk about value all the time, but salespeople have to close the deal. So they start focusing a lot on price. And I want sales team to remember that we're not low-cost providers. Unless, of course, we are. Then we would have a different discussion. But usually small giants are not low-cost providers. They go to the other team. They play on the other team. The other side is adding value to the customer. So never forget that. You have to reinforce that. If you don't do that, what happens is that the customer will always ask for a lower price. And they'll say, you have competitors that are charging less than you. And then from salespeople hear that so much that they almost start believing it. So you have to brainwash them on the other side, because customers are brainwashing them from the other, saying, okay, we have lower costs on the market. Your competitors charge less. And I want them to be very specific and say, no, we do not compete on price. So this is, and you have very clear here what our positioning is and what's your main positioning, and then you always have two other things that you are really good at. So why this kind of explains our positioning. So let's say that one thing that I could say, for example, is that we have superior product or service quality. And the support could be agility, could be speed of response, could be customer care, could be value-added services, which I call like coaching. We teach our customers how to improve their performance. We teach them how to increase their results, not just by the products and services we sell, but by teaching them how to use it better. Okay, so that would be all things that support your positioning. Fourth thing quickly that I'd like to see is a unique value proposition. That is a short paragraph. It's just one phrase that summarizes our positioning, but includes the benefits to the customer. So it would say in just one phrase why we're different and why this is good for the customer. And your salespeople have to know this by heart. Because what happens is that, and I've done this 100 times, is you take people from a sales team, you give them a pen and a paper, and then you ask them, okay, please write down what our unique value proposition is. Okay, so why is it the customer will buy from us and not from competitors? Okay, and they will write things down. And then when you compare the sheets of paper, everyone's saying a different thing. And then if you can ask the owner of the company, okay, please write down your unique value proposition. What do you think is really different about your company? And then you compare that to the sales teams, and it's different too. And then you say, oh, we have a problem here. And usually when this happens, the owner will get really angry or upset, because it's probably something that he or she has been repeating forever. Like, it's like, oh, I can't believe that people are still misunderstanding this. I've told them 100 times that it still happens. This is why I want them to write it down, and everyone has to have the same answer to this. What is our unique value proposition? The fifth and the sixth are strengths and opportunities. Those come from a SWOT matrix. So strengths are our internal competencies, things that we are really good at, what we're really proud of. And here what I want to give is, I want the salesperson to be really proud and to have arguments when they're questioned by the customer about why we have a higher price, we have our positioning, we have our unique value proposition, and we have our strengths too. This is what we're really good at. And I want them to focus on these strengths. And the opportunities of what's happening in the market that creates favorable market conditions for us. So what's happening overall in the world that will help us achieve our goals, right? Why does this help us? And here I want our salespeople focusing on positive side of things. I want them looking for opportunities. So what's happening? And I want them talking about that. And I want them all aligned, saying, okay, this is where we should be focusing our energy on. Seventh quadrant is our ideal customer profile. And what I ask here is to describe in details what an ideal customer looks like. Here I usually do 8 questions, and I ask salespeople and sales managers and the owners to do this all together. The 8 questions are, what is the situation of this customer? So, for example, is he male? Is she female? Are they old? Are they young? Are they conservative, or are they into new things? Is it a company? If it's a company, what company size? How old are they? What's their revenue? How many employees do they have? What's their position in the market? Like, what kind of competitors they have? That kind of thing. Second thing, the second question is, what would be our ideal customer expectations? Because you want to be sure you can meet those expectations. And when you market to them, you want to be clear about communicating that you're good at solving that. The third thing is what problems are they dealing with? What are the problems that our customers want to solve and that we can help them solve? Fourth thing is, what are the pains caused by the problems? So here I'm going deeper into the problem. Let's say, for example, that I am an HR company, that I help companies with lowering their turnover. And so they would describe high turnover as a problem. Well, that's a problem, but it causes a lot of pain. What is the pain that a high turnover would cause? So, what are the consequences of that? So I start to dig deeper. And when you talk about pain points, that is really powerful when you're going to create your marketing material later. And the questions that you want your salespeople asking, that kind of thing. When you're going to do an assessment, you want the customer to feel the pain. So they self-select and say, oh, I need that. I can feel that. I want you to help me solve it. Fifth thing that I want to define about my ideal customer would be their worries. What are they worried about in the future? For example, what's happening? What are they seeing? Like, what has happened before in their past that they can be afraid that they don't want to happen again? Sixth thing would be, what irritates our customers? This is always an excellent question to ask your potential customers is, what irritates you when you have to deal with companies in this area? So let's say that I'm selling web marketing services. Okay, what irritates you? What you don't like in the process? When you change suppliers, why do you change suppliers in this area? And you want to ask that question. And people will go into, it's funny because sometimes I will talk to CEOs and they say, okay, Raul, you have like 30 minutes. And then we get to the things that irritate them, that they don't like, and they will start talking for like an hour. And I will remind them, okay, you said you had 30 minutes. No, let me go on. And because people really like talking about that, why they changed suppliers, what happened last time. This is good for you to know, and it's also an argument later on because you can promise that, okay, this will not happen, right? Because we don't do that. The seventh thing that I like to know about our ideal customer would be, what alternatives do they have besides us? What else could they do? It's not just my competitors. For example, sometimes an alternative would be do nothing. So I'm going to keep it the way it is. I'm going to the old way that we're already doing things. I'm not going to hire you. I'm sure that you can improve things, but I'm comfortable with or not discomfortable enough to make a decision right now. So that's an alternative. You can have low-cost alternatives. You can have higher-end alternatives. So what are your alternatives? What is the customer looking at? I want to understand his way or her way of thinking so I can influence that. And the last thing is, define clearly what success is for the customer. So what are the gains or the benefits that the customer is looking for? So what is exactly that he defines or she defines as success? So when you go back later on and say, okay, are we good or are we no good? You have to have something that is really specific. Once you do that, and usually most companies don't, you're way ahead of all your competitors because most of them don't even define that. If you talk about irritants and gains and benefits, you will have a conversation that is very, very interesting from a sales point. Well, and then the last two quadrants are they're directly related to all the other ones. In this eighth quadrant, I asked to define what our priorities are. And priorities could be, for example, well, after we decided that we have all these strengths, these opportunities, the ideal customer profile, etc., one type of priority could be prospecting new customers. Okay, we have to get new customers. That would be one thing that you could do. The other thing is, well, we have to sell more of our product or services into our own customers. So you would work your product or service mix into them. So you would cross-sell or upsell them. You could reactivate inactive customers. So customers that used to buy from us, but from some reason they're not buying from us anymore. Well, let's go revisit them or recontact them and see what's happening. We could ask our salespeople to negotiate better, to defend better our price integrity, right? And keep that, to lower discounts, to base more the sale or the contact, the whole process on value and not just on price. You could increase customer contact. For example, we have to be in touch with our customers more frequently. And this, you can have an ABC curve, for example, and decide, okay, these customers are going to be contacted personally. We're going to visit them. These we're going to touch by telephone. These are going to receive emails. And when you have all of them having webinars or PDFs or whatever it is, that could be a priority. Another priority could be educate customers. Okay, so how do we have them? How do we make them understand how to buy better, whatever it is that you're selling? And I love, for example, when you visit Zingerman's, that they teach people how to bake bread because they want people to be able to to take two breads and say this is good one and this is not good one, and they know it because they made bread. So have people visit your company, have events for them, have online courses for them. That could be another priority. And when you can involve your sales team in that, that is really, really good. So those could be all different priorities, and these priorities are basically what is exactly that we're going to do. That is, what are the activities that we have to engage into in our sales team so that we can achieve our goals, respecting all the things that we talked about: the unique value proposition, our strengths, the opportunities in the market, our ideal customer profile, etc. And the last one is zero tolerance. So if we decided that these are our values, these are our goals, this is our positioning, this is our unique value proposition, these are our strengths, our opportunities, blah, 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 we will not accept these 3 or 5 things. This is things that we really cannot accept. And then each company has their own zero tolerance list, and they usually they're directly related to values too. So these are our values, and these are our goals, and these are our priorities. Well, then we cannot accept these things. And I like this to be out on the open, because people talk about open numbers, and I think we have to have open values too, and open discussions about that too. And zero tolerance is just a way of formalizing things that are sometimes unspoken in the sales team. And then no. We have to have this conversation and have the team create it. Usually this does not have to be imposed by a higher authority like the owner or the sales manager. The own team can create their zero tolerance. You can just ask them the question. After we talked about all this, so you can do all this with your sales team, for example, in the morning or in the afternoon. And say, okay, what would be unacceptable after all we've talked about? Let's make 5 bullet points about it. And the sales team will tell you. They will tell you, well, we cannot do this, we cannot do that. Okay, and then I'm going to hold you accountable for that. And that's basically a way to summarize everything that I think that's really important for you to start. This is also a great tool that you can use later on. I have other ones, but this is a good way to start when you want to recruit people, because you can ask them to do this for you, or you can present them and tell them, ask them questions about it. You can give feedback to people. You can create sales campaigns. So if I want to increase something here, I can just say, okay, we're going to focus on this priority, and I'm going to give a bonus for this. If we do this and we achieve these results, you can have key performance indicators based on this, etc., etc. So this is kind of a one sheet that I created. It's an overall view. I call it the sales strategic map. And the real interesting part is having your team create it with you, because the conversations that you will have are very enlightening, and you will find out that you will be surprised at what sometimes salespeople are answering in these questions. And this brings it out something that you think that is clear, and sometimes it's not. So this is basically an overall view. And now I'd like to open up for a discussion about this and how you guys do this in your company and what you think, any questions you might have.
Hey, Raul, before you do, I have to jump off the call because unfortunately I have a prospect meeting in a few minutes. I'm going to go sell using these principles, but I just wanted to say thank you for sharing this. You've basically read my mind. It's exactly what we do with our customers, and I'm going to steal your 9 square saying we do it kind of slightly differently, but you've captured all the exact things that we tell people to do. So it's great to hear somebody else talking about the same thing. So I'd love to talk to you about it
came
offline.
It's here.
Look, we read each other's minds. Yeah, small giants mind meld.
Yeah, and look, if you have to leave a sales workshop to sell, you're always excused.
Okay.
Marissa, when you
all right, bye everybody. I wish I could stay for the whole thing. What's that?
Marissa, when you make your adjustments to that process, let us know what adjustments you make so I can share it with the group.
Yes, we can see the iterative evolution.
Fantastic.
All right. Thanks, you guys. I'm sorry I have to jump off.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Thanks.
Mike, you had a question about best practices and protocols. Do you want to go ahead and ask?
Sure. Raul, this is really great. I really like the matrix. We're doing a lot of these things. One of the things that we're not doing that I will is related to the core values. And we live by our core values. We make decisions by our core values. We hire, we fire by our core values. And it's a large part of my time. But what I really like what you said was taking the core values and translating them into each job description. So we put our core values in the job descriptions. We have job description specific elevator pitch according to the value proposition. But I really like being able to use examples per job description in the core values. That's really good.
Yeah, and you can use the same thing when you're going to interview a potential sales recruit, someone that would be new in your team, and say, okay, well, these are values. Please tell us how you live them as a salesperson. And they will tell you, okay, let's value number one. This is what I understand. And that's very interesting because you have insight on how the person feels and lives that value, right? Because you don't want to find out about that later on.
Yeah.
Right. You want to know beforehand. So it's a great tool to do. And then you can also use it when you're recruiting. Yep. Okay. So, and then we had a question about requests for proposals. Is that it?
Yeah, Brad.
Sorry, got to get the mic on. There we go.
There you go.
So we're dealing with a couple big opportunities, Raul, and despite not really having a formal sales team, obviously we're making sales calls and doing some of these things, but I really like the formality of it. And it's going to be a great exercise to go through. But we're dealing with a few RFP, RFQ situations with bigger clients. Fill this out, and we know that we're on the the final list, the top 3 people competing for the business, but we don't have a window in to ask a lot of these questions. How does that change things?
That's always an interesting question, and I like what Paul used to do is when Paul sold Barrel, and he did that for a long time. Basically, you have to be you have to participate in the process earlier on, so that when you try to avoid that situation, basically, because you're being mixed in with everyone else on a template that doesn't really give you much leeway to show how different you are, right? So there's really no way around that, because if they're asking for a request like that, you already know that you're being judged on what's on that spreadsheet, what they're asking you for. And you're not able to say, okay, I want to leave this the square that they try, the box where they're trying to fit me in, and I'm something different. It should be the other way around. You should be either before the sales, trying to influence them, or overall in the market. And what Paul did was he created an institute to educate the market about how Barrel was different. And I don't think they even accept being a part of something like that. If they would get that, they would politely or gently say, I'm sorry, but we don't do that. And that is hard to say because you're losing business. And I understand that. It's no, Raul, you don't understand. This is a huge opportunity. It's a huge contract. They'll say, oh, yeah, I do understand that. What you have to understand is that you're a small giant and you're being treated as not a small, you're a low-cost provider. And then you have to put,
yeah, exactly.
And that's really hard. And then it's a decision you have to make. Do I really want to go that way? Because you're going to be judged later on, not on that too. They're going to say, okay, you promised all this, and then we're going to pay you this. And I say, you know what? Maybe this is not a great idea. I would be very careful with that. Mm-hmm. And have you ever talked to Ari, for example, about that?
No, I haven't. We typically don't do RFPs for a lot of those reasons.
But this is so big that it's interesting.
Well, these are in our wheelhouse, and we've been in some cases handed to these companies on a silver platter. So we believe we're already the favored provider, yet they're making us do the dog and pony show.
Yeah, do it.
we
Do
try to
the Dog and Pony Show, and then maybe send them something by email or go visit them. Go personally send them there, and then, okay, you asked me to send the proposal, or here it is. I took the plane, and here I am, right? And let's go out for lunch or something like that. Like take them out of their arena. It's not their playground. Take them.
Yeah, we in the past, I like to go visit them or just invite ourselves. We've looked for little cracks to jam in information, or you know what, this isn't really a fair question, because we've been rather brash in the past with some of them and some of our answers, or declining to answer things because they're trying to characterize something that can't be properly characterized. Does that make sense? And so that's, I like it.
Yeah.
One
thing that I was doing is send the proposal and then send them a ton of other things. Like you asked for the proposal, here it is. But we're so different and we're so much better than everyone else that we also want to give you all this, like a list of things, a PDF file, a white paper, whatever it is. We really trust you in making a good decision and make a good judgment and illuminate them.
One of the things, Raul, one of the things that we've done is, hey, Brad, we don't necessarily respond to RFPs either. We did in the past, but as soon as we defined a very clearly defined sales process with goals, plans, challenges, timelines, consequences, budget, needs, authority, timing, all that stuff in the sales process, we started to, when we saw and looked at an RFP, it's like, they're not asking the questions that we need according to our sales process to properly qualify them. And then from there, we'd say, we'd love to respond to this RFP. However, we just have a few questions first. And in essence, what we did was put them through the sales process to qualify us, each other. But until we defined our sales process, it was really hard to have that conversation in that RFP process.
Right.
We've
Great idea, Mike. Thanks.
Yeah, we've definitely experienced similar things. We've had a moratorium against government RFPs, primarily because we've certainly defined ourselves in that high value market space, and like I think all of us agree that when you get into that RFP space, it's very commoditized, and it's just not a space where we want to be. That's not saying we never do it, but it's definitely, I think, part of, I'm seeing a lot of kind of similar things in what Raul's document there, like the ideal customer. I mean, the ideal customer for us is those that we can develop long-term relationships, that they value what we do, we work proactively for them, and there's a good symbiotic relationship. So that disqualifies a lot of the carrots that dangle in front of your nose, right? And we've recognized that not every carrot that dangles in front of your nose is a healthy carrot, because some distract you from more productive things that you can be doing that can really contribute to your health as a company, whether it's in what you're developing and how that client relates to that, or other things. So I think that's definitely, a key factor is really defining your ideal client, what they mean to you and what they mean to your success and what you can contribute to their success, and it being a very long-term sustainable relationship. So I love a lot of what you said here, Raul, because it really kind of is very parallel to a lot of the things that we've recognized through time, and I think that I've also learned from a lot of small giants, and that's where it's, I think, tremendously valuable. I look at you guys as part of our collaborative network, and like when I was hearing, Raul's comment about, the building blocks to learning more about your clients, and that begin well beyond kind of the RFP process and or that process where you're kind of stepping into the office and talking about opportunities, building that collaborative network about people, about influencers in your kind of community, right? That you don't know where they're going to come into play, but by kind of looking at that view towards collaboration, that at some point in time they can be very helpful, and you just don't know how. But really, that's what we've really focused on is that collaborative.
That's great, Kevin, because that also reminds me of one other thing that you can do, Brad, is that sometimes you will have more people involved in the buying process inside that company. They sent you an RFP, and it's one person, then or one division, or I don't know how to call it, but that person sent you that, but you have 4 or 5 people inside the company that really want to work with you. So you can also send these people an email or make a phone call and say, okay, I just answered the RFP, and I'd like to talk to you about that, right? So now you're building your case with other, let's call it constituents in there, like you want them to be on your side. So because they will probably have a meeting to discuss all the RFPs that were received, right? And you want people to say, okay, maybe Brad is not the cheapest one, but he asked me 5 questions that no one else asked. And he showed us 3 different things that no one else did. So, maybe we should go with them, even if they're not the lowest price, because the RFP will basically focus on that. So you can build your case inside the company with other people. And then you have to map out who are the key decision makers, the influencers, and all that. That is really another way to work.
One of the things we've done too, real quick, Brad, is sometimes we'll respond kind of informally. For example, we'll write a blog on the topic, like top 10 things you should ask during the RFP process or something to that effect. And then we'll share that with promote it and share that with certain people to drive them back to the site. But it's a way to kind of have that informal but almost direct conversation.
Yeah. One thing that would be really interesting to see, and I'd love to see that, is, okay, we answered your RFP, but we have 3 tips for you to improve it. Like how to improve your RFP request. People would go crazy with that. Like, say, really? Are you saying, yeah, because it's really good, but you can improve it because these are 2 or 3 questions that you forgot to ask. That kind of thing. And that really shows that you're different.
I like it, guys. That's great ideas. Awesome. Thank you.
This is really good.
Great. Keith?
And we're definitely not afraid to do things like, hey, this is where you should have improved your RFP. We have no problems showing our expertise.
And Brad, that's a great, as he just mentioned, it's a great blog post. Michael that's a great 3 ways or 5 ways you can improve your RFP. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't mention it by name.
Yeah.
Great.
No, they can hire you to help them improve their.
There you go.
Keith, you had a question about struggles in your staff between values and being a low-cost provider, and that.
Yeah,
Can you iterate that question for us?
It's similar to what the discussion's been around. I think that's probably what most people struggle with is getting the message across to your salespeople that you're not low cost. You're providing something different. So, they want to make their numbers, and they're always going to be fighting for a way to win the deal. A lot of this stuff that you've been through is we've got pieces and parts, but I don't have a good positioning statement that makes the salesperson really have to articulate and believe that we're selling something other than low cost. So I think going through that exercise would be very useful.
Yeah. One thing that you can do is ask for testimonials from your best customers. And usually when you start looking at the testimonials, like why people like buying from you or doing business with you, you will see that some things come out because you start seeing words being repeated or, like overall things. And it's like, okay, this is really what makes us different. This is what people like about us. This is what we're really selling, right? And I like Frederick Reichelt's NPS tool for that. So it's I think they call it the definitive question or something like the ultimate question, something like that. Where it's from, would you recommend us? And people have to give you a grade from 0 to 10. And then from people that give you a 9 and a 10, you will ask for a testimonial and you will ask for a recommendation. 7 and 8 are maybe, so maybe I would recommend you say, what would we have to do for you to give us a 10? And from 0 to 6, you have detractors, people that were really not happy with your company and say, okay, what happened and how can we solve it? So you do that after every sale if you can. And then you have once every 15 days or once every 30 days a meeting to discuss the results of those things. Because now you're looking at what your customers said. And 99% of the time they will not be talking about price. right? They will be talking about other different things, and that's a way to show your customers that look, your sales team, look, customers are not only interested in sales. Of course, they want a better price. Right, it's the right to have it. They want to negotiate, they want to buy from us, and of course they want to pay less. Anyone wants to do that. I want to buy the best house, the best car, paying the lowest price I can. Of course I want to do that. That doesn't mean I won't buy, right? But so I want to have this, but it has to be frequent. It cannot be a once a time, once every 6 months or once a year thing where we have a sales convention, we all go to a retreat in a hotel, and then we talk about the values of our company, or how we're different. And then we go back, and then we commission them on the sales that they close. And if they lower the price, they close faster. So basically, they have a financial incentive to discount, right? And sometimes, for example, what I see is that salespeople are
Did we lose Raul?
I think we might have. Let me see if we can get it back here.
At least he paused
or
it.
not. They're being paid for to do something different. Mike, you want to say something about that?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that someone was making a question. So you have to look at the way you pay, you compensate your sales force too, because many times they will have a financial incentive to make the sale go easier, and if lowering the price is that the special thing, that the special sauce that makes things go easier and faster, well, that they will do. The customer is happy, they close the sale, they get their commission, everyone's happy, but the owner of the company is not, and then you have a problem.
That's one of the things actually I wanted to ask a question about is what if you guys have any thoughts on salaried salespeople versus commissioned salespeople, and coming up with other ways besides straight commission to reward for performance and keep the goals and values aligned.
I have my answer for that, but let's see if the rest of the group has something to say, and then I can jump in.
One thing that I do is one component of the sales compensation bonus is based on our great game results. So if the profitability is where it needs to be, then they also benefit. I mean, it's a pretty good chunk of their compensation. So that forces them to think about profitability and not just top line revenue.
Yep. True. One other thing that I'm seeing, Brad, is that many companies in that situation are moving towards a higher fixed salary and a lower compensation. So historically, it was it was the inverse. You would have a low fixed and a high commission. So that is starting to change. And that because you feel that the best way to have salespeople really living your values and doing everything that we talked about here is not by giving them putting a financial carrot in front of them, and especially if it's a really big carrot. Yeah, there's nothing you can say that will be stronger than the huge carrot that they have in front of them. It's just too strong an impulse to have to go after that. And if there's a lot of money involved, that's what they're going to force people. People are going to do that. So you have to look at your compensation plan, and usually it's more fixed. It's more related to the overall results of the company, right? It has to have a personal part. So a salesperson should have a part of their commission based for the direct results. A part has to be related to the overall company, right? So you have these three components: fixed, personal, overall profitability, and that's the way to move. And then you have to start. There's no perfect compensation plan. They're just pros and cons, and then you just have to adapt them. And one other thing that I'm seeing is that usually what you create is a matrix with key performance indicators that are important for you, and you don't compensate your sales team just on one specific number or what you want them to do a lot of things, right? For example, customer satisfaction would be a part of that. I don't know, mix of products and services, upsells, cross-sells, different things that it really depends on your strategy. But you want to have a matrix where people are compensated on more than one thing, right? And they have to understand that. Then they will have like a business person mentality and not just a salesperson mentality. They're like small entrepreneurs representing you.
And I think the key is that it really needs to fit your strategy and your goals and your objectives, right? If you're trying to create a team environment or collaborative environment, and you're coming up with really, really kind of high bonuses and things like that are running counter to those objectives and the long-term kind of goals that you're trying to achieve, I mean, that's where it can really be a mismatch. So I think it's hard to say like one size fits all or that kind of thing. I think it really needs to kind of be reflective on what you're trying to achieve as a company.
Yeah, you especially see that when revenue is down, and then you need new customers or you need money, and then salespeople you create a new plan that say, okay, forget about everything, let's go after customers, and then it's a hard thing to go back to the normal way of doing things, to the regular way you worked before. People create these sales plans, crazy sales plans when they need revenue. And then they get the revenue, and then now they have a sales team that is used to play on steroids, or on sugar. They need the sugar high, and then if they don't have that sugar high, they stop working, and then you have a problem. So you have to be very consistent all the time, and I completely agree with you, especially when you need the revenue. That's when everyone's tested.
Hey, Raul.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Kevin. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, one of the points I was wanting to make is that, I always think about, okay, everybody has to be singing from the same song sheet. And that's what I like about your page here. It's the song sheet, right? And we're not immune to, even though we're a small company, we're not immune to people having very different perceptions of what we're trying to achieve. And I think that strikes the importance of you need to continually live and breathe these things. And I think, what you've done here, encapsulating things in this matrix or the map is very, very important, because it's not just a one time you get these messages out and then you expect people know them and live and breathe them. You have to be continually nurturing it to make sure that people are singing from the same song sheet and are in tune.
Yeah, I have people that have used this, and then they send me the photos of them, of how they build panels on walls. They have banners. And I have one of our customers, he's a very large company in Brazil, and he has, 20 different states, have the offices in 20 different states. He's had like 1,000 salespeople. And what he did is a video for each one of these boxes. So he has a video for values, he has a video for goals, he has a video for positioning so people can watch them. He will, it's like his weekly video for the sales team. He will talk about it. New hires have to go through the process of watching all the videos and all that. And it's constantly reinforcing that, and it's very interesting. Once you understand it, it's like the great game of business. Then you just can be creative and say, okay, how can we adapt this to our company, to our culture? But it's that thing of that everyone on the same page, literally.
Raul, a quick question. When you have when you have a documented sales process and you have your goals, your positioning, you have the 8 or so questions you're asking, what's your recommendation on how to refine that over time?
The same way that you would do with any one sales page like Gino Wickman or the Rockefeller Abbott, etc., is that you will see that the interaction with the team will start, making things. You will define things better. You will refine them just by talking with the team and say, okay, what is that you understand about this? What happened? What are the questions, right? And go through the process of say, maybe I'm not clear here. Okay, let's redo this, right? And usually what I have is the team work on it. And for example, a new hire, I would tell them, what is that you recommend that we improve here, right? So every time someone new comes in, even temp attempts could be, you know, like, what is that you recommend? And usually what you will see is that values don't change, positioning rarely changes, unique value proposition rarely changes, strengths sometimes, opportunities change all the time, okay? Ideal customer profile sometimes changes, it really depends, but when it does, it's something really important. Priorities change, right? And zero tolerance also changes. So mostly on these that I just mentioned, that's where you will see that you have to go back and review them every 3 or 6 months, because those might change, right? And this is alive. It's not like dead. It's not on stone. It's supposed to be reviewed every 3 months or 6 months. I like it quarterly, right? And especially on the things that change frequently, like opportunities on the market, priorities, etc.
That was helpful to identify the boxes that might change more frequently over the ones that are static, that won't change, like values or goals.
Exactly. Those maybe you can refine because something will come up and that, but those would be like really slow turning wheels. If they were wheels, it would be like huge wheels and it will take like forever to make them turn. And the other ones are smaller and just turn faster because it's the market. It's market conditions, your competitors, something's happening, and you have a new product coming out, a new service, and then that will change something, right? For example, if you have a new product or a new service, that probably be priority number 1 for next quarter, is getting that out into the market, for example, and then you would change that kind of thing. And I think you also refine opportunities and ideal customer when you start working with it constantly. You will see that salespeople will start changing words and all that, but it's not really serious. It's just, you know, like little details that makes it easier for them to understand.
Okay, well that's it for this one. Check out more Fishbowls exclusively for the Small Giants community at smallgiants.org.